Hi there, students, and welcome to the Once Upon a Time and Place Story Maps of Climate Change project. And in this presentation, I am going to show you how to make your own story map. Okay, so step number one is to go to ArcGIS Story Maps at the link provided, and you want to sign in the first instance. So I'm already signed in here, but for you, you need to make a new account, create an ArcGIS public account. So click on this, and here you fill in your details, and this will enable you to get an account with Story Maps. Okay, students, so when you have logged in, you should be brought to a page that looks like this. And well, your page won't look just like this because you haven't created any stories. These are the stories that I have created already. Yours will be blank until you start to add some stories to your collection. So what I'm going to do in this session is to show you how to create a story. And the first step is to click on New Story. And it gives you different options, but we're going to choose the guided map tour. And a guided map tour is where you walk your audience through a list of locations sequentially. That means that you walk through them in order. So we click on guided map tour, and this should bring us through to a story builder. And the story builder will look at something like this. You have a template where you're going to create your story map. And you've got room for your title, whatever that will be. And you've got room for a little description about what the story is about. And then down here, you've got your template that you will work with. So on this one, so far, we've got a map on the right, and on the left, we've got room for, to add a location to our map, to add some information about that location, to give it a title, and to add an image or video. And for this one, we have just one location so far. But as we work through our story map, we will add more slides. So this one will be, we have the option of talking through 4 places or 5 places and so on. In this session, I'm going to show you how to create a story about 3 places to give you an idea about how it works. So I'm going to call my story Carbon Sinks. And I'm going to give a little bit more in my local area. Okay, that's not a very good title, but I'll just use that for now. So this is a story map about carbon sinks in my local area. I probably could give my audience a little bit more information to maybe encourage them or to sell my story map more effectively. But for now, this is fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about carbon sinks in my local area. And usually I start by adding the location. So to add a location to your story, you press the add location button, and then you click on, look for your local area, or you look for the place that you want to document something about. So I'm going to look at Crystal Palace Park. It's in my local area. And this brings me to it. And I usually go in and I have a look around to see, is that really the Crystal Palace Park that I'm referring to? Because there may be others. And so this is it. I recognize it. And I am going to add a point to the center of the park. I've just clicked on the map and then I add location. And that adds the place to my map. And I'm going to move on to the second place, and I'm going to do the same thing. I usually do all the locations first to the best of my ability. And this time I'm going to look at Mayo Park. And it's also on the map, and you can see it's not too far away from Crystal Palace, which makes sense because this is my local area. And again, I'm going to add my point to the middle of the park. And then I'm going to add that to my map to record it there. So now I've got my 2 points on my map, and I'm going to add a third one. And that brings me to the third slide. And again, I'm going to add my location. And this time it's going to be Wells Park, Sydenham. Wells Park, Sydenham. And again, that's not too far away. I'm going to just zoom in to make sure that I'm in the right place. There it is, Wells Park, Sydenham. I'm going to put my point right in the middle of the map, and I'm adding it to my story. So now I've got information about 3 places, and that's all I'm going to talk about. I'm going to delete the others so they can be easily deleted or easily added if you want to add more places. So again, to delete, just delete. And if you want to add more, you click on the button over here. Okay, so what have I got so far? I've got 3 locations on my story map. And now I want to give my audience some information as to why these are carbon sinks. And you probably already know that because these are parks and green spaces, they function as a carbon sinks, because we know they're green spaces and wooded areas with vegetation work to mitigate against the impacts of CO2 emissions. Okay, so here we are at number 1. I've just mistakenly reordered my slides, which you can do. You can move them around if you've change your decision about the order of the slides. But I'm going to go with my original one, and that was Crystal Palace Park, which is indicated here in the map. And I'm going to add a picture to illustrate what it looks like to my audience to make it more interesting. And these are some pictures that I have taken or I've acquired previously. This was one I've taken myself. And have I added that to the map? Add it to the map. Click, open, and add. And it should bring my picture up. And it may take a minute. So there we go. It's loading. And that's my picture of Crystal Palace Park, a picture that I've taken myself. So I'm going to give my place a title. I could call it Carbon Sink number 1 if I wanted to, but I'm actually just going to call it Crystal Palace Park. And I'm going to add a description because I've got to explain why this is important, why my Crystal Palace Park is included on my story map about carbon sinks. So to do that, I have some text that I've already prepared. I've prepared text on all my parks. In here, I've got a little piece of text that explains to my reader about the park and how it functions as a carbon sink in the first instance, but also how it functions as a place for local community groups to engage in sustainable activities. So the local community group in Crystal Palace, for example, encourages local food production, a local market, creative waste reduction, recycling and upcycling, and they promote low carbon and transport energy use. So it's important to do some research on the place that you are talking about so that your audience can be informed about, why it's important or why you have included it. So I've cut and pasted my text into my room for description here. So far then I've got 1 place complete. Now I'm going to go to the second place, which was Mayo Park. And again, I'm going to add an image. I'm going to browse my files. I've got my image here, which I took myself, my own photo. And I am going to add that. So add. And that enables you to add. And again, we can add Mayo Park. Give it a capital P. And I've got my text again that I use to provide information. And here we go. I'm going to put that text in my map so that I tell people why Mayo Park is a carbon sink. And then lastly, I'm going to go to Wells Park. And I'm going to add my image. Now this time I didn't take the picture myself, so I will have to credit where I got the picture from. This is a picture that I got from a website, so I will have to add a note to say that I have taken this from somewhere else. And just for your information, I got it from this website, Geograph. This is the picture that I've taken, and it's given me this information about the copyright. I am going to just copy that so I can add that to my story map later. Okay, so back to our story map, and that's Wells Park. And again, I need to add my description, and I have my piece of description here on Wells Park. I've got my little piece of information that I wanted to save. and I add my description to the description section. Okay, there we go. So that's my information about that. And essentially these are my three places. Now down at the very bottom there is a place for where you can add your credits. So I'm going to add that little piece for my credits to the end of my image of Wells Park. Okay, added it there, and that's what I've got for my story map. So the next step is to publish. I'm going to publish it and make it available to everybody. You've got to make sure that all of your information is correct before you make your story available for everybody, because everybody who has access to story maps will be able to view your map. So let's have a quick look at what we have produced. So here we have the carbon sinks in my local area, and the story map looks like this. It brings you on a journey to the various carbon sinks in the local area as we have mapped them. So hopefully you will have got a good understanding of how to produce your own story map from this video, and I look forward to hearing from you on what you have produced. So the last thing I'd like to say is here we have used some very factual information about climate change. I have gathered factual information from various sources to talk about local parks as carbon sinks. And I'm wondering if you can think of maybe some more creative or more imaginative ways in which we might relay information about climate change to wider public audiences. As outlined in some of the previous lessons, we know that artistic and creative responses can have a better impact or a more effective impact on audiences than factual approaches. So I invite you to think about how might we approach our topic more creatively or more imaginatively. So send me your ideas and on story maps and your examples as you go on to produce them. And hopefully we will touch base. You can come to visit us or visit one of our additional workshops.